You're at 109 right now.
I think I'm ready to begin. I just read this. I'm going to read it to you. Whenever you encounter the 109 angel number, remember to trust your intuition and embrace the opportunities that lie ahead. As you do, you may find that your life becomes more fulfilling and aligned with your true purpose. This number is a message from the universe that it's time to listen to yourself. It encourages you to let go of your fears and doubts, trust your instincts, and take the leap of faith. Angel numbers can be an invaluable source of guidance in our lives, but ultimately, it's up to us to make the most of their meaning. So the next time you see 109, take a moment to reflect on what it means for you. Think about how it can look, excuse me, Think about how it can help you look within, trust your intuition, and manifest the life of your dreams. All right, so I'll leave that there. Put a pin in it. Now, let's go back to 109 and when I saw it. That's what I want to tell you about. So we're going to start with, let's see, we're going to go back to 2019 because that's when 109 appeared for me, but when also I reflected on its meaning and the message came to me and I had an epiphany that said this is what 109 means. All right. So there I was in Oman. That's a Middle Eastern country. I'll try not to explain too much and I'll just give you the gist of it and hope that you will be with me throughout this journey, or rather that you'll stick with me. So there I was in Oman. I arrived there and I was there to work. So I had to sign a work contract. And the building where I was to enter to sign this work contract, it was located in the capital city of Muscat. Well, right outside of that building, there was a car parked there, and the license plate read 10 and 9. Those numbers were there in that particular order. And so on the day that I was entering the building, I saw the license plate, I saw the car, I saw those numbers. And in that moment, what I thought about and what I felt was, well, here I am I'm going to sign another contract for another job, for a future that is uncertain. But I needed to sign the contract because I needed money. So I was like, here I am giving my life to some task, some job that I had to do to get some money. I don't know what all is going to happen in the future, but I'm going to sign the contract and hope for the best. And so I was also, because I was so far away from home, thousands of miles, like 8,000 miles away from home, halfway around the globe. I was I felt sad that here I am just chasing another dollar, and look at how much I had to sacrifice for this job. I had to travel so far from home, from my community, from friends, family, all of that stuff, from normalcy, from everything that I knew to be normal. And there I was chasing more dollars. And I just thought, man, here it is again. Here I am again. So there was I don't know, desperation in me because it was like, well, I have to sign this contract in order to survive. I've got to do this. It was just like, when am I going to be in the position to control my life? When am I going to be able to say, no, I'm not doing that? Or rather, I want to go there and I'm going to do just that. This was me saying, okay, I'll do that in order to get that money. And hopefully someday in the future, I'll be able to say, I'm going to do this and then just do it, have more control. But anyway, just before signing the contract, outside of the building, I noticed that the license plate of this one car sitting right out in front of the building, had the license plate number 109 on it. The full number was 10914. I took a picture of it, but not on that day. That's an important detail. So when I walked into that business, I saw the car, but I didn't take a picture of it. I just went in to sign the contract. But I never forgot that car. And then it was probably 7 months later, when I was leaving the country, that car was still out in front of that business. And I said, you know what? I remember that car. It's still there. I have to take a photo of that car. And I did. Okay. So that's just one thing I wanted to tell you about my travels to Oman. So upon my arrival to Oman, there I was, and I saw 109 on that car's license plate. Okay. I probably arrived I don't even remember when I arrived. Was it January? It had to have been like maybe late January or early February. I'm not certain. I'm not certain at all. Anyhow, when the month March rolled around, I bought a pair of sneakers, of Nike sneakers. There I was in Oman, and I bought a pair of Nike sneakers. Now, I'm from Los Angeles. If you know anything about Los Angeles, you've heard of gang culture in Los Angeles. And basically the rules, societal, cultural, social rules in Los Angeles are, if you're a gang member, then you can demonstrate your gang affiliation through the clothes that you wear. I mean, but that's kind of a general rule for anything. Like if you are a Native American, if you are Hispanic, there are particular clothes. If you're Indian or, Asian, if you're from a particular culture, what you wear can demonstrate to the public, that you are a member of that culture. So anyway, in Los Angeles, members of gangs oftentimes wear the color of their gang in their shoelaces. So you have the blue gang, you have the Crips. Their color is blue, so shoelace-wise, they would wear blue shoelaces to signify, to demonstrate, hey, I am a Crip. If you're a red gang, if you're in the red gang, the Bloods or the Pyrus, the Brims, Bloods, Pyrus, Brims, I don't know, there are some other names. There's maybe one other name I'm forgetting. Damus, I don't know. Anyhow, if you're a Blood gang member, then the color is red. So if you wear red shoelaces, then that would demonstrate that you're a member of the Blood gangs or you're affiliated with Bloods. Okay? So I had to explain that because in Los Angeles, if you're not affiliated, if gang culture is not you, then you don't wear the colors that demonstrate, that signify membership in these gangs. You don't wear red or blue, whether they're shoelaces, whether they are T-shirts, whether they are hats. There's a whole slew of clothes that one should not wear if one is not a gang member, affiliated with gang culture, et cetera, et cetera. I say that to say that when I was in Oman, I was far removed from Los Angeles culture. And I happened to buy a pair of Nike sneakers that were not only blue, but they also had blue shoelaces in them. And I bought those shoes because, one, they were in my size. Two, I liked the style of the shoe. And three, there were no other colors in that size, that were right for me. So basically I had to accept the fact that I was going to wear blue shoes with blue laces in them. And I wanted some comfortable shoes to wear So I bought those shoes. Now, again, I was in Oman, and Oman and Los Angeles have very different cultures, and blue shoes with blue laces basically means nothing in Oman. So I felt quite comfortable buying blue lace shoes, blue sneakers with blue laces. I felt quite comfortable buying those shoes in Oman. Whereas were I in Los Angeles, I would not have felt comfortable buying those shoes. All right. So that said, I had blue laced blue shoes in the desert of Oman. Did I fail to mention that it's a desert? It's in the Middle East. It's the desert, okay? And yes, by the Middle East, I mean East Africa, far east of Africa, right? Across the Red Sea, but still, Africa nevertheless. Because what is the Middle East anyway? West Asia, right? West Asia, far east Africa. But I digress. So there I had these blue Nike sneakers with these blue laces that I would never have bought in Los Angeles if I had the choice. I would have chosen something else. I would have gone, shoeless, right? I would have done whatever I could not to wear those in Los Angeles for fear of unwanted attention and misrepresentation, right? Anyhow, blue lace Nike sneakers. Where have I heard that before? Well, Nipsey Hussle has two songs called Blue Laces. Blue Laces 1 and Blue Laces 2. Songs that I wasn't particularly clued into up until that point. I heard Blue Laces 2. I was aware of the song, but it wasn't like I was trying to be a Crip. I wasn't trying to identify with Nipsey. It was just a matter of those shoes were available. It was a coincidence that those shoes were blue and had blue laces. And if I were a Crip in Los Angeles, that would have been right in alignment with my identity and affiliation and what have you. But I was in Oman, okay? So anyhow, I had these new sneakers on. And I remember one day I was near my home and I noticed some goats in the hood. No, I noticed some goats walking around the neighborhood. Now I'm from Los Angeles, and seeing goats in your neighborhood is very rare. If it's an impossible sight. Like where does that happen? It might happen in Compton. Compton Cowboys. Compton has a lot of farmland, and there might be a goat here or there, but it's a rarity, in the big cities for. But I was there in the desert, so when I saw these goats, there were probably like 4 or 5 goats. Then it was an interesting sight, and I thought it was interesting that I was in a neighborhood where goats roamed freely. So I grabbed my phone in order to take photos of these goats because it was like, you want to update people and show them, hey, this is how I'm living. Look at this. Look at what I see in my neighborhood. It was a rare sight, so I was like interested in snapping the photos. So while I'm snapping photos of these goats, I guess I captured the attention of one goat, and that goat approached me. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. I'm going to interact with this goat here. Let me make sure to take some photos of this goat. And so the goat approached me, and basically the goat stared at me, looked at me. Perhaps the goat was saying, do you have any food for me? Give me some food. I want some hungry, I didn't have anything for the goat. And as I stood there, trying to take a photo, the goat moved in closer to me, and its hoof landed on my blue lace Nike sneakers, squarely on my foot. And it's the desert, so the dirty clay, sandy, floor ground that the that the goat was walking on, and I too was walking on. That dirt, that under the hoof landed on my new shoes, and I felt like I was in the movie Do the Right Thing, by Spike Lee, where Giancarlo Esposito's character, well, he gets his Nike sneakers scuffed. It's a poignant moment in the movie because he goes ballistic. What are you doing standing? What are you doing? You scuffed my new shoes. You destroyed my shoes, man. And he's talking to a white man who's in the neighborhood, who's new to the neighborhood or what have you. The movie is commenting on gentrification and cross-cultural, interference. But it's about the value that our culture places on sneakers and our attire, and it's a commentary on how others do not, share that same value. And so there I was in the desert with my new sneakers on, thinking, hey, I look fresh, I feel comfortable in my new sneakers, I'm doing it, my shoes look nice. And here is this goat that is in its environment, because culturally goats roam freely out there in the desert. And the goat, there's some interference there's a culture clash because the goat's hoof lands on my shoe. And I take it as a disrespectful thing, the same way that Bugging Out did in the movie Do the Right Thing. I'm like, how dare this goat step on my foot? Now, I didn't blow up. I didn't hit the goat. I didn't snatch my foot back. I just thought to myself, man, this is a bizarre set of circumstances that the goat would approach me, stare into my eyes as it has done, and then stand on my shoe and leave me to wonder, how this ever could have happened. But in that moment, I had to wonder, what does this mean? And for me, for what had happened, for that goat to stand on my shoe, on my foot, I thought to myself, wow, the goat is trying to tell me that my shoes are not important. The goat is trying to tell me to pay attention to other things. The goat was trying to communicate, with me, trying to give me a higher message. It was like the universe was talking to me through this goat. And the message clearly was, your shoes are not important. There are other things that are more important. So pay attention. So that was a moment that I had with that goat. Now, I took those photos. I have those photos. I have a picture of my foot after it was stepped on, all of that. And I shared that with people on Instagram, people who were friends, family, for them to see, so that they could, sort of chuckle at, hey, look at Larry. He's in the desert. There are goats in his community, in his hood. And the goat stood on his foot, on his shoe. Look, he thought he was stylish and styling in those new shoes, but the goat showed him, man, that's not important, So anyhow, I have that moment in my mind. It was clear. I posted those pictures to Instagram. So also related to my feet, when I was there in the desert, I was suffering from a foot fungus that I wasn't taking proper care of. I was doing all the wrong things. I was dipping my foot in apple cider vinegar, thinking that would kill whatever bacteria, but it only exacerbated the problem. It only worsened it. My foot was not healing. It was just it was an acid that was just tearing my skin apart, and the fungus, whatever, it persisted, and I just couldn't heal. I couldn't heal until I acquiesced. I capitulated, and I said, I gotta go to the doctor because my foot looks terrible and I just can't seem to figure out how to fix this. So I got to the hospital, and the doctor basically took iodine, cotton swab, and iodine to my foot. Immediately, everything ceased. No more burning. There was no more fungus. And my foot was clean and clear. Now there were like small bumps and regions where my skin was broken, and so my skin needed to heal. But the iodine was the answer. It wasn't the apple cider vinegar. The doctor even told me, the doctor asked me, what have I been doing to my foot? And he told me, hey man, stop doing that apple cider vinegar. It's only exacerbating the problem. So when he put the iodine on my foot, it immediately healed. It was like, this is what you needed to do to calm the infection or whatever. So the doctor told me, clean the wound with iodine, a cotton swab, and then apply a burn cream, one that I purchased while I was out there. So the doctor got me right. And all I had to do was clean the wound with iodine, wash the foot, soap and water, hit it with some iodine, and then finally put the burn cream on. And weeks later, my foot was healing rapidly. But I had to put this ointment on my foot. Now, putting the ointment on my foot and leaving my foot, open for it to breathe. I didn't walk around. I wasn't walking around in sneakers. So those blue lace sneakers that I bought, I wasn't wearing those anymore because I needed my foot to breathe. Well, anyway, when I was walking around my home, my apartment or what have you, whatever, my home, I would put the iodine on, then I would put the burn cream, and I would put one sock on my foot, so that the ointment, the burn cream, wouldn't rub off onto the floor. It was kind of to protect the foot. So if there was anything over the foot, it was a sock, and that sock was only there to keep the burn cream, in place. Not a shoe, only a sock. So I was walking around with one sock on my right foot because the right foot is what was infected. So I had one sock on my right foot, okay? And I happened to take a photo of this. I was sitting in a tent one day. I was chilling outside, reading a book. It was hot. I was trying to relax under the hot sun. And I took a photo, and I posted that photo to Instagram, as I do. And so you could see my right foot had a sock on it, one sock on my right foot. And there I was in the desert trying to enjoy myself. Some of the things in that photo were Oreo cookies. I was eating Oreos. I was reading a book by Black Panther, Jamal Joseph. I had Miles Davis's music, jazz, playing from my iPhone. That was the music in the background as I was reading the book. I was laying on this air mattress that I set the air mattress inside of a tent, so the tent was protecting me from the sun. And then I had that one sock on my foot. So there were just some bizarre details, a cacophony of details that were just like, look at Larry. Look at him. The last picture he posted to Instagram had him, with the goat. Now he's under a tent. He's got one sock on his right foot. And that sock was really, really important for that photo because, symmetry is important. When we put socks on, we wear two socks. Like, what's Larry doing with one sock? Yes, I'm speaking about myself in third person because I'm removing myself from, the first person, and I'm saying this is what people were probably looking at my pictures and saying. James told me that in the conversation I had with him one day, he's like, now you're talking about yourself in third person? I'm trying to look at the scenario, look at the situation from different perspectives. And one perspective is removing yourself from the situation to assess it. And that means looking at it or speaking about it in the third person. But I'm fully here telling you my story. I am Larry Wiggs. I'm fully here, right? So Let's not get that twisted. I don't, for the purposes of telling the story, yes, I'm going to use third person, but otherwise I'm right here. Okay. All right, so the photo, I posted that photo to Instagram. And then because it was the month of March, outside of the photos that I was posting, there were other events that were taking place at the same time. So look at that. I was aware of these events that I'm going to tell you about. Meanwhile, on a personal level, these are the things that were happening to me, from seeing goats in my neighborhood, buying new shoes, to tending to a wound on my foot. These are the personal things I was dealing with, while internationally, these are the events that also captured my, attention and, of course, my imagination. So those three events that I'm going to tell you about now were, first, it was the Battle of Adwa anniversary. Now, the reason why this was important to me is because in 2017, 2 years before 2019, of course, I had traveled to Ethiopia for the first time, and then I got basically an Ivy League education through my travels to Ethiopia, because I had watched the travels of Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr. I think he's a professor. He graduated from Yale, and he knew about everything that I was learning about firsthand, 20, 30, maybe 40 years before I even learned about it. And so there was an awakening occurring, in my knowledge and my experience. And there I was actually following in Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr.'s path, because I was taking a tour that took me to the same places that he had been and that I had watched him travel to in his documentaries about Africa. So I was getting an Ivy League education through my travels. And up until that point, I had learned about the Battle of Adwa and its significance to Black people all over the world. And essentially, the Battle of Adwa is a beacon of hope for all Black people around the globe, because it communicates, it tells Black people around the globe that although other nations fail or lost battles against Europeans, that at least one nation did not lose a battle to the European colonizers. And that is a beacon of hope that says you can defeat your colonizer. And so that message, when it resonates with you, or when you hear that message, it will resonate with you as a Black person and tell you you are powerful beyond your circumstances and beyond your past, your history. You are more powerful. You can overcome. It's a powerful message. And I got that message, and I saw things, firsthand when I was in Ethiopia. So anyway, in the month of March 2019, there I was in Oman, and March 1st is the anniversary of the Battle of Adwa. So that is a date for Black people to stick their chest out and be proud of the accomplishment of the Ethiopians over the Italians. Now, if you're Black and you don't know about the Battle of Adwa, then March 1st is just a regular day and you're just lost. You're ignorant to the facts. Well, I wasn't lost. I wasn't ignorant. I knew what was going on. So when I heard about, so when March 1st arrived, I might have seen some Instagram posts from Ethiopia, or Twitter posts, from accounts that I follow in Ethiopia that just informed me, hey, this is what is happening in the world. You should know about it. So at least I knew what was transpiring. I mean, by that, I mean, in Ethiopia, there are celebrations for the Battle of Adwa. At least it's a powerful, it's a day. It's a day of remembrance for Ethiopian people. Recently, there's on Instagram, I saw skateboard girls, Ethiopian skateboard girls, or girls who skateboard in Ethiopia. And the girls in one picture took some like mascara. No, maybe not mascara, but eyeliner or something, some makeup. And one of the girls wrote Adwa on her cheek, or one of the girls wrote Adwa on another girl's cheek. And when I saw that, I said, see, that's what I'm talking about. That is a reflection of Ethiopian pride in their victory over the Italians in 1896. So I was like, look, that's proof positive right there. So anyway, and I saw that recently on an Instagram account, Ethiopian skate girls or Ethiopian girl skate or something like that on Instagram. Adwa, Adwa. So anyway, March 1st, the Battle of Adwa, that was in my mind, and I was like, okay, I know what time it is. I'm hip. I know what's up. 9 days after that, Ethiopian Airlines plane crash occurred. And I wasn't paying attention to the news, but I got a message from one of my former colleagues, Seth. And Seth sent me a message. Now, Seth had already been to Ethiopia. Seth is a white boy from Tennessee. And he had already been to Ethiopia, loves Ethiopia. He's cultured. So Seth was like, hey, man, did you hear about the news about Ethiopian plane crash, And I said, no, I didn't. So now, personally, I was on some, hey, I'm proud and happy for Ethiopia since the Battle of Adwa, the month of March. Till 9 days later, I'm saddened by the news of this event that occurred in Ethiopia. Now, I'm already curious about this, like, wow. March is supposed to be a month of celebration for Ethiopia, but look at what just happened to Ethiopia. And one of their airplanes crashed. Another reason why that event was so devastating is because Ethiopian Airlines hadn't had a plane crash in 20 some odd years. And it was just like, wow, the timing of these events are crazy. Personally, for me, because one, I was already thinking about Ethiopia because of March 1st, the Battle of Adwa. And then my attention on Ethiopia again was stoked. It continued on Ethiopia because of the airplane crash. So I was like, I was thrown. My emotions shifted from one, pride, then to sadness, and just I was wondering what happened. Why did this happen? So it's now 2024. We're 5 years removed, and so they made Netflix documentaries about the Boeing conspiracy and everything that played into the occurrence of these two accidents. One accident in, I believe, Indonesia, and then the other happening in Ethiopia. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I think it was Indonesia. I thought it was Thailand at one time, but I don't think it was Thailand. Anyhow, so 9 days later, the airplane crashed. So now I'm thinking, dang, my March 2019, I'm focused on East Africa for sure, because the Battle of Adwa, and then now this disaster, the plane crash. So Ethiopia, or rather, East Africa was on my mind. And then, of course, that same month, on the last day of the month, Nipsey Hussle is murdered. And that was another earthquake type of event. That was just like, it was catastrophic. It was devastating. And it was psychologically, it was devastating. It was a devastating blow to our psyche. That's really what you have to focus on. The month of March was supposed to be a celebratory month. It was supposed to be the the greatest, such a wonderful month, because thinking of resonating on remembering and commemorating the Battle of Adwa. That was supposed to be it. Yeah, man. And during that month, tragedy strikes, and tragedy strikes our beacons of hope. Ethiopian Airlines is a beacon of hope for Africa. There were no accidents for 20 plus years. It's a beautiful airline. It's clean. It's sophisticated. It's one of the Star Alliance members. It's all of that. And then there's a plane crash. And then you've got Nipsey Hussle, a rising rap star from Los Angeles, who's showing us that wealth can be had, that you can be prideful, you can be powerful, you can be intelligent, right? And you could still come from the ghetto. You could still come from the hard, streets of Los Angeles. And you don't have to go the traditional route. Go to high school and then go to college to become successful. You could be a success right in your own backyard, or one grown out of your own backyard, of your own doing. Shout out to La Russell in Vallejo, California. You can do it. So these were shots to our psyche that told us, basically, no, you can't do it. When that month should have been, yes, you can. Okay, so let's go back to 109 and these angel numbers and things, because this has taken me far longer than I thought it would. So March 31st, then I got the news that Nipsey died, and I'm devastated because it was a shot to my psyche. Just 1 week, the week prior to Nipsey's murder, maybe even days prior, a day or two prior, I read the article in Forbes magazine about Nipsey Hussle, and I was filled with so much pride in his success that the news of his murder was just a 180. It was just devastating. It was like, oh my gosh. Anyhow, that same day that I got the news, now I'm in the Middle East, so Nipsey was murdered on March 31st. But I got the news, 16? No, it's 11 hours. 11 hours ahead. So I was 11 hours ahead. So it was April 1st. April 1st is April Fool's Day. That was a terrible joke, but it wasn't a joke at all. It was real. So there I was in Oman. I got the news Nipsey was murdered, and I was devastated. But on the way to work that morning, there was a truck that cut me off, and the truck's license plate was 1090. So I saw those numbers that day. So I had to think about what those numbers meant to me in that moment. And because it was on the day, because I saw those numbers on the day that Nipsey was murdered, and because there was so much attention on East Africa, Nipsey by way of Eritrea, which is an East African country, the gears in my brain started working. I was like, what's happening? Why is it that the month of March 2019, which should have been a celebratory month for East Africa, is now becoming a month marred by disaster? First, the Ethiopian Airlines crash, now the murder of Nipsey Hussle. And Nipsey was from Eritrea, which is an East African nation. And I knew not only about Adwa, but I also had traveled to Aksum, and I learned about the Aksumite Empire. So now I was like, why is Nipsey gone this month? What did Nipsey represent? What is Nipsey? Who is Nipsey? And I don't have all the answers, but at some point I was like, oh, no. I remember. See, having seen 109 the same day, within hours of getting the news about Nipsey, okay, And having seen 109 on the day that I arrived in Oman, this is my mentality. This is what was happening. So on the first day when I arrived in Oman and I was signing that contract, 109 meant to me hope. And 109 meant to me said, 109, I used 109 to mean, hey, God said you're in the right place. That's what seeing 109 on that car's license plate meant to me. Because I was like, man, I'm chasing these dollars. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what my future holds. I'm not in control of my future. But when I saw 109, it was saying to me, relax. Everything is in divine order. You know, you are right where you need to be. God is in control. This is kind of what 109 was saying to me on the day that I had to sign the contract, right? So now on the day that Nipsey was murdered, as I'm going to work, this car cuts me off and I see that its license plate has 109 on it. The license plate is 1090. Now, with all of these ideals in my mind, I'm like, what does this message mean? Why on the day that Nipsey is murdered, why do I see 109? I draw the conclusion, or I jump to the conclusion. I arrive at the conclusion 109 and Nipsey are connected for some reason. And then it dawns on me, well, the reason why I keep seeing 109 is because I was supposed to pay attention and I was supposed to interpret what Nipsey's murder means. I'm supposed to understand. I'm supposed to pay attention to that event, and I'm supposed to understand what that means. So to me, I guess the idea jumps out at me, Black Jesus. That comes to mind when I think of 109 and Nipsey. And I'm like, Nipsey was the chosen one. Nipsey was the one. And 109 was the sign that was calling me to pay attention. And so before 2019, since 2007, I had 12 years of experience seeing these numbers, 109. And it always resonated with me because these numbers are an allusion to my birthday. And so up until 2019, all I thought was 109 is my birthday. And I keep seeing it. But I would also ponder, like, maybe I'm wondering about the purpose of life, or maybe I'm wondering about my purpose, right? Why was I born? And then on April 1st, that's the day it was when I was in Oman. Again, it was March 31st when we lost Nipsey. My purpose seemed to come clear, seemed to be defined because what I was able to do in that moment is I was able to see my numbers, and I was able to understand that my numbers were signs to prepare me for some event that I would have to interpret. And that event was Nipsey's murder, but it was also 109 that helped me see Nipsey more clearly. So I saw Nipsey not as the world saw him. Oh, he's a rapper. Oh, he's a businessman. Oh, he's a gangbanger. Oh, he's a gangster rapper. No, I saw him for being, of course, a son of a black woman in America whose bloodline traces back to an ancient biblical kingdom. Ethiopia and Eritrea were united under Queen of Sheba, Makeda, and the empire spread across Ethiopia, Eritrea, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen, and probably Djibouti as well. And I was like, It's a sign that is clear as day. Like Nipsey garners so much attention from the world, because of his because of his divinity, because he was special. He was a chosen one of us. So it just became clear to me, Black Jesus, Nipsey. That's it. It was as clear as day to me. It was clear as night and day. I understood that I was supposed to see who Nipsey was beyond the gangster rap and the neighborhood politics and what have you. And 109 was confirmation of that. So I was like, all right, cool. I got the message. I see it. So I understood what the message was, and then it just forced me, it propelled me, it motivated me to be creative. And so that's when I started to put my thoughts together and then write the poem 109, where I explain, everything that I knew up until that point about 109, about Ethiopian history, about the Aksumite Empire, about Jesus, about religion, about my personal experiences in the desert, all of that stuff, and the events that occurred that captivated, captured my attention, my mind. So all of this was working on me, and I was working on the poem, putting together the ideals to communicate it. And I even thought, hey man, if I'm able to put this in a rap song, maybe I'm able to capture, people's attention with it. Maybe I'll have a budding rap career. That was a fleeting thought, because when I tried to put the lyrics to music and I found that it wasn't working, I was like, well, maybe it'll just become a poem. I could just read the poem rather than try to set it to a beat and make a rap out of it. It wasn't working. So anyway, it was 7 days. 7 days thereafter when I saw a cross in the sky. And that was like the most bizarre experience. But then it was like further confirmation. If I had any doubt that God was put me there in the desert, if I had any doubt of it, if I didn't believe that my life was guided by God, it was the sign of a cross in the sky that basically solidified it for me and then gave me, no more doubt. And so the day that I saw this sign, the day that I saw this cross, I walked outside my home on my way to work. I looked up in the sky just to take in, the scenery. And I looked up and I said, yo, that's a cross in the sky. And then I also wondered, like, how did that get there? And why? Why is that cross there? And I'm like, what day is it? I'm like, man, it's 7 days. It was 7 days ago that we lost Nipsey. It was 7 days ago that we lost Nipsey, that on that same day I saw those numbers 109. And here I am now, 7 days later, looking into the sky, and I see a cross. And when I saw 109 on the day that we lost Nipsey, I thought about Jesus. I thought about Black Jesus. I thought about Nipsey. And now here I see a cross in the sky that for me has appeared out of nowhere, because that cross, I've never seen a cross in the sky over this city, that I was living. The city's called Nizwa. I was like, hold up, man. That's bizarre. That's a miracle. And so what I was saying was, like, I looked up in the sky, I saw that cross, and then I had a smirk on my face, like, yes, Lord, yes, God, I got the message. I understand. I thoroughly understand. I have no doubt in what 109 means now, because there are those three elements, Nipsey, 109, and this cross. We're done. I got it. I know exactly what my mission, what my purpose is. I've got to communicate this message to the world. 109, Nipsey, and that cross. So I was like, I got it. I got the download. Now, what I have to tell you about that cross is the way that the cross looked. Yeah, I have pictures of it, but when you see the picture, I have to guide you. I've got to tell you about this picture for one. All right. For one, I'm from Los Angeles. And being from Los Angeles means that there are airplanes that fly over Los Angeles daily. Right now, I live in Inglewood, California. Every 5-10 minutes, there's an airplane flying by, okay, overhead all the time. In 2019, I lived in Oman in the city of Nizwa, where planes do not regularly fly overhead. Now, if a plane does, however, fly overhead, because there are no airports in Nizwa, the planes are not flying low to the ground. Rather, the planes are flying like 38,000 to 40,000 feet in the sky. So what that looks like is if you look up in the sky, you'll see these, if you look up in the night sky and you see an airplane flying overhead, the only indication that it's an airplane will be the lights that are blinking from the airplane. You follow me? So that's the regular, that's the usual, air traffic that Oman gets. Planes that fly overhead at 38,000 to 40,000 feet. Now I want to tell you that these lines that were in the sky that day, they were not at 38,000 feet because, okay, sometimes when planes fly overhead, they leave lines behind them. They leave a trail of condensation, right? Contrails, as they're called. Those lines in the sky, they could not have been left by an airplane because those lines, well, for one, they were up there in the sky longer than contrails, stay up there. When an airplane passes, those lines they'll stay up there, but then they'll dissipate shortly after. These lines were in the sky for a while, at least 10 minutes. I remember them being up there at least 10 minutes. Anyhow, but it was also, you can clearly see contrails, especially if it's not a cloudy day and the airplane just flies by. You see these lines, these clear lines that are delineated in the sky. In the sky in March 2019 over the city of Nizwa, what I saw was the reverse of clear skies and a line. I saw cloudy skies where lines have been basically like removed. And the analogy I can use is like, let's say you have a table full of cocaine spread across it, and then someone snorts that cocaine and basically removes a line of cocaine. That's what the clouds look like. It looked like the sky was covered in clouds, at least light clouds, and these lines looked as if the clouds had been removed. Right? So it didn't look as though an airplane had put something there. It looked as if something had removed the clouds. Now I mentioned the elevation of the airplanes, and for these lines did not appear to be at 38,000 or 40,000 feet. They appear to be much closer, much lower to the ground, probably like 10,000 feet. Because they were clearer, they were lower to the ground. It wasn't way high in the sky, okay? So that's what I needed to tell you. The distance from the ground, was nearer. It was nearer. These lines in the sky were nearer to the ground than the airplanes that fly overhead, if they fly over at all. Then it was the reversal The skies were not clear, and these lines didn't look as though an airplane had drawn them using the contrails. No, it was the opposite. It was as if these lines had been purposely removed. And then purposefully, it seemed like those lines were made in a perpendicular fashion. So it was even more bizarre that this cross was up there, because for how the crosses seemed to look, they looked as if as if someone had removed the clouds from the sky, but they had also done it in a perfect perpendicular fashion, which was also mind-boggling. Like, how does that happen? So the only conclusion would have been, all right, on this particular day, just before I walked outside of my home to see these lines, 2 airplanes flew overhead, not leaving behind contrails, but actually like vacuuming clouds out of the sky. And they passed each other at a point where I could basically see the intersection of these 2 lines that made it form like a cross. All of these details taken together were just way too bizarre for me to say that that was the result of 2 airplanes that flew overhead minutes ago, one flying north-south, the other flying east-west. These details were just too much for me to say, yeah, airplanes made those. And it fits so well into the week that it was 7 days after Nipsey was murdered, and seeing 109 on that car that cut me off. All of that taken together was just a bizarre set of circumstances. But it was very clear to me that I knew that God was giving me a message, and I knew what my purpose was. It was to communicate Nipsey 109 and the cross. I had to tell that story. I had to tell you about these details. I had to share these details with the world, just as I'm doing right now. So back to my foot in the tent and that picture I took, excuse me, and the fact that I was wearing one sock on my right foot. Matches. What is a matching set? One is left, one is right. One is up, one is down. One is here, one is there. Matches, okay? That's what a matching set is. Left foot, right foot is a match. So I took that photo of my right foot with my sock, wearing a sock, right? Now, Nipsey was killed, and during the process of him being transported from the scene of the crime to the hospital, at some point, one of his socks was removed. Can you guess which one? Now, the picture I took, I had a sock. I had one sock on my right foot. Somehow, only Nipsey's left sock, or the sock on his left foot, was left on his body. Now, when I noticed that detail, that was another confirmation. It spoke to me. It said, remember that photo you took about a week ago? You had one sock on your right foot. Look at Nipsey. He has one sock on his left foot. That was a bizarre moment when I noticed that detail, because it spoke to me, and it said, I really started to become paranoid at that point, because I was like, somebody knows that I'm in the desert. Somebody knows that I took a picture and posted it to Instagram. Somebody knows that I had one sock on my right foot, and somebody wanted me to see Nipsey, dying, wearing one sock on his left foot. And I was like, man, maybe it's the CIA. Maybe it's the FBI, It was too much of a coincidence for me. I was quite, perturbed by that detail. But I still held on to the faith and the belief that, God was in control, and these signs were not for naught, and this was all important. These were all important details. And outside of the paranoia that maybe these are signs that they're showing through, through the media, as if to say, hey, we know who you are, we know where you are, we're communicating with you through these signs and these symbols, specifically the socks. Beyond that, I took it as further confirmation that, hey, God is still communicating with me and showing me these are the details to focus on. So there it was, one sock on the left foot, one sock on the right foot. A match was made. And that further energized me and motivated me and compelled me to keep working. So then something that I noticed was when I came back to Los Angeles years later, after it was like 2022, 2023, I don't know. It was probably 2022 when I saw the video taken the day that Nipsey was murdered. I hadn't seen the video. I hadn't seen the particular video that I'm talking about until years later after I left Oman. I saw the video where Nipsey's brother Black Sam is doing chest compressions on Nipsey. And I noticed that the video, okay, it's official police video. It was made public on YouTube. But if you watch it, you'll notice that the video itself has a tag number on it that includes 109 in it. So there it was. There was 109 in that the last video of Nipsey Hussle. It was there once again. Undeniable. There it is, 109. Like, wow, look at that. Hidden in plain sight right there, 109. The last video of Nipsey Hussle, 109 is there. And then when I got back to Los Angeles, just as I had seen 109, those lines in the sky, or basically a cross, and it was around the time of Nipsey's murder, and those three elements were just fused in my mind together, across Nipsey and then number 109. When I got back to Los Angeles, I found 109 across and Nipsey right there. Those three elements, I found them in Los Angeles. Basically, at the corner of Crenshaw and 60th Street, I saw a mural of Nipsey Hussle. I saw a cross next to the mural, and then I saw an address that included 109. And I thought that was a bizarre set of coincidences because, like, how does that even happen? Again, it was just a bunch of coincidences, but it's a bunch of coincidences or a bunch of details, mundane details that mean nothing to anyone in Los Angeles. But it meant something to me because thousands of miles away, 8,000 miles away, halfway around the globe, on the day and on the week following Nipsey's murder, all I could think about was Nipsey, 109, and that cross that I saw. And there I was back in LA seeing those same three elements. Now, what I mean by seeing those same three elements is not that, hey, I see it here, I have to drive some distance. Oh, I see that over there. I drive another distance and then I see it over there. And that's it. Or maybe one day I was walking down the street and I saw 109, and then I saw the Nipsey mural, and then I saw the cross. No, what I'm talking about is I saw three things that stayed right where they were. Right where they were. It was right here, it was right here, and it was right here. And those things didn't move. Every day that I drove down Crenshaw Boulevard, I saw that address that had 109 on it. I saw that cross, and I saw Nipsey's mural. It was always there. It wasn't like I had seen it. It wasn't like someone's license plate as a car drove by, I saw 109 on the license plate. It wasn't like on a receipt that particular day I saw 109 on the receipt. No, it's on the address. The cross is right there on the building. It's been there. It stays there. And Nipsey's mural, until 2 weeks before it was removed, I flew a drone overhead and I filmed that. What a coincidence. What an interesting coincidence. 2 weeks before it was removed, the mural of Nipsey was removed, I flew a drone overhead and captured the image. The mural had been there for a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years. And then it finally went away. And 2 weeks before it went away, I filmed it. Now that's a coincidence for you right there. So anyway, man, this has been a lot. My shoulders are aching. I've been talking for over an hour now. But that's what the story is about. So that's 109 for you. That's the story of 109 for Oman. That's what you need to know. And so numbers are the universal language, and so when in those moments it's said about angel numbers that you have to pay attention. And so whenever I saw 109 for 12 years before making the connection with Nipsey and 109 and the cross, for 12 years I encountered 109, and it was like, do you see 109? Pay attention to 109. It was developing me. It was forcing me to pay attention, to notice it. Whether I was in Japan, Ethiopia, Cuba, Mexico, Peru, and then recently in Sweden and Denmark, in Bahrain, of course in Oman, in Saudi Arabia, in Korea. Did I say Japan? I had all these moments over 12 years, even more than 12 years, because the moments that I mentioned in Ireland and Denmark and in and the like, all of that occurred when 2022, and it still occurs. I still see 109. So it's more than 12 years. Those are moments that just tell me pay attention. Make an assessment of your life, of this moment. Remember, thank your creator, thank God. God is with you. That's what these numbers tell me. And it's an interesting coincidence that for what I concluded in the desert of Oman about Nipsey being Jesus, Black Jesus, these numbers 109 have a unique unique message in the Bible, in the book of Romans 10:9. And Romans 10:9 says, confess with your heart that Jesus is Lord. Confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, and you will be saved. So 109 in the Bible, that's a famous quote from the Bible. Romans 10:9 is talking about Jesus. It's talking about belief in Jesus, and talking about your salvation. And all I saw in Nipsey was Jesus. So I was like, man, to have confirmation come from the Bible related to those numbers specifically just made it even more profound. This idea that Nipsey was Jesus. Like, whoa. Might sound like some blasphemy, but it's something to really think about. It's like, who was Jesus really? I mean, of course they say, did Jesus even exist? But basically what they're trying to tell us in the Bible is that there was a human being who walked the earth, and he was, a divinity. He was a deity. He was blessed by God. He was the chosen one. And he was here to show us, the righteous path, a man who walked the earth. And I'm like, look, it's Black Jesus all the way. And who in our modern times, represents Black Jesus other than, one Nipsey Hussle? That's just the idea. But, that idea also came from Nikki Giovanni, Professor Nikki Giovanni, poet Nikki Giovanni. She was on the Breakfast Club, and she said that if Jesus were among us today, if Jesus were alive today, that Jesus would have been a rapper. Jesus would have been a rapper. Now, when she said that, she said Jesus, Tupac. Jesus would have been Tupac. So, in her estimation, Jesus was Tupac. But in my estimation, I'm looking at Nipsey like Nipsey was Jesus. So I guess we can argue, all of this stuff, but it's not an idea that's far-fetched. It's just an idea that, has to grow and has to develop. We have to understand. We have to see these things. We've got to see. We got to know. We got to see. We got to know the connections, know the details. We got to pay attention. We've got to pay attention. We got to pay attention to ourselves. We got to pay attention to our bodies. Got to pay attention to our minds, to our intuition. Pay attention. So that's what the 109 is about. So imagine that. It was 7 days after Nipsey's murder that I saw the cross in the sky. It was 10:9, Romans 10:9, that says, confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and you will be saved. That's one heck of a coincidence for me to have seen the number 109 the day that Nipsey was murdered, and then to find that biblical verse that says 109 is important like that to your salvation, or rather 10:9, So math is the universal language. Numbers speak to us. And I'm comfortable talking about my number 109 because, of course, I know there are people who are listening to this who have their own set of numbers that speak to them, that they see those numbers often. People have those numbers tattooed on their bodies: 1111, 222, 333, 444, and those numbers are frequencies. I remember I met this young girl in Seattle, Washington recently. She had the year 1979 tattooed on her neck. And I asked her, what? I was like, what's up with 1979? And she said, that's my father's birth year. Those numbers meant something to me because that was the year that I was born. Like, oh, wow. So these numbers are important to us. And so just like that young girl whose number she had tattooed on her body, my numbers led me to write a book entitled 109, has led me to create a podcast, has led me to create a YouTube page. All of this has sprang forth from the well of 109. And think of the commitment that it takes for someone to tattoo something on their body forever. That's the same commitment level that I have to these numbers. I wrote my book. I talk about these numbers in my podcast and my YouTube page. It just is going down. It's all happening. So that's the story. Those are some of the stories, because there's even more bizarre stuff. And the other thing about 109 is, let's see if I can just tell you in a very short amount of time. Jean-Michel Basquiat was an artist, and he died in 1988, but there was a recent exhibit of his artwork in Los Angeles it started in 2023. Now they say 2023, 2 plus 4 plus 3 equals 7, okay? So in the year 2023, on March 31st, the day that Nipsey Hussle was murdered, Jean-Michel Basquiat's artwork was exhibited. The exhibit opened March 31st, 2023. And so look at that, March 31st, 331. That equals 7 as well. All right. That's a bizarre connection. The day that we lost Nipsey here in Los Angeles is the day. No, it was 4 years removed. Okay, so it was 2023 when the artwork went on exhibit. But it was the day that we lost Nipsey, March 31st, that the exhibit opened. Okay, and so Jean-Michel Basquiat. Yeah, the same day that we lost Nipsey, his exhibit opened. 4 years after Nipsey, we lost Nipsey. That's a coincidence right there. But the reason why I even bring up Jean-Michel Basquiat is because Jean-Michel Basquiat created an artwork in which he wrote the number 109. He wrote those numbers on that work of art. I found that work of art in a strange set of occurrences. It was 11:09 p.m. Think about that, 11:09. The number 109 is in that time. It was 11:09 p.m. when I saw the number 109 in Jean-Michel's artwork. And this particular artwork I had seen for the very first time, and I saw 109 in his artwork, that he had written it. He had written that number on his work of art. And I found it at 11:09 p.m. Okay. Then it was over a year later when I began to study that artwork of Jean-Michel Basquiat that it began to dawn on me that I had seen a picture of Nipsey Hussle that looked like the image that Jean-Michel Basquiat had painted. And then when I looked at them, when I studied the painting and the picture side by side, I basically came to the conclusion that the picture is the inspiration for the painting. But that couldn't be possible because the painting was created in 1983, which is 2 years before Nipsey was even born. So how is it that a painting is created of a person who hasn't even been born yet? And my answer to that question is, well, that's because the painting is a premonition of someone to come, someone, important to come to earth. Jesus, y'all. So I was like, how is it possible for this painting to look like Nipsey and for the painting to have these words as well as numbers that are related to Nipsey and his life? And my only answer is Black Jesus, y'all. So I studied the painting, I studied the picture, I put them side by side, and I said the picture and the painting are one and the same, but they couldn't possibly have been, of Nipsey, explicitly. When Jean-Michel painted it, he wasn't thinking of Nipsey. It was the spirit. It was the spirit working through him that was leading him to this painting, because there's just far too many connections to Nipsey's life that, should not be ignored. And so that's what I saw. But the way that I found that picture, I just happened to be listening and watching a music video of Nipsey's, searching for things that were like, come on, man, show me a sign. And when I saw that picture with Nipsey in it, with the number 109 in it, I was like, there it is again, 109 and Nipsey right there for you. And then to have discovered Jean-Michel Basquiat's painting, and then see the connections between the picture and the painting, and then the words that he had written and how they relate to Nipsey, it was just like, it was further confirmation that, hey man, this 109 stuff is real, bro. if you pay attention, then you'll see it, you know? So that's what it's about. Yeah, it was a premonition, you know? So 109 is important. 109 is deep, and 109 is real. I found another work of art by Jean-Michel Basquiat that had the number 109 in it, but it's not explicit. You know, actually you have to take a photo of the painting and then you have to reverse that. You have to invert the painting in order to see 109, but it's like, hey, how is that even there? What is that? What was his intention of putting that there? Because it clearly looks like 109. And then something that's even more interesting is this idea about Jesus, about Ethiopia, about Black Jesus, you know, all of this, it's not a new idea because even Basquiat wrote about it in his artwork. He put the word negus, Negus, right next to the word Jesus, Jesus, negus, Jesus. If that doesn't tell you Black Jesus, if that doesn't scream out Black Jesus to you, then I don't know, you know, what else would he have had to have written in order for that idea to be, you know, transferred or transmuted, you know? Jean-Michel Basquiat was saying to us Black Jesus in his work of art when he wrote Negus, Jesus. Negus means King of Kings. It comes from Ethiopia. King of Kings, Negus. So he's putting King of Kings next to Jesus, saying Jesus was the King of Kings. Negus, like, yeah. And then Negus comes from Ethiopia, so he's putting Ethiopia next to the word Jesus to say, hey, Jesus comes from Ethiopia. Now, but I'm saying Nipsey is Jesus, but Nipsey's not from Ethiopia. Well, yes, he is, because the Ethiopia, Eritrea, Saudi Arabia, Djibouti, Yemen, all of those countries were covered by the Ethiopian queen of Sheba, Makeda. So before you say that, you know, you are American, you are Korean, you are Japanese, you are Indian, and all this other stuff, before we say that we are different from each other, remember we are all similar. We are all Africans. Humanity consists of Africans. So if you look at what combine is, what similarities we have, not differences, then you can see why I would say Nipsey is, you know, Black Jesus, because of Ethiopia. Because at one time, Ethiopia and Eritrea, the country that Nipsey's father is from, that was all one nation, one empire. I hope you smell what I'm putting down, because it's deep. So I'm hungry, I'm inspired, and it's time to chill. So these are all the ideas that one has to know, one has to capture, one has to understand in order to understand the story of 109 or 109 and how it relates to Ethiopia, Jesus, Nipsey, traveling the world, history, historic events, art. Yeah. We are one. It is all there. All right, thanks for listening. I'm out.
You're at 109 right now.